The stars shone brightly against the black canvas of space. The monitoring station on Europa beeped steadily as Joe Clark sipped his coffee. His job was simple: watch the screens for anything unusual beyond the orbit of Saturn. Most days were quiet. Today was not most days. A red light flashed on his console. Joe sat up straight, nearly spilling his coffee. The sensors had picked up something big moving toward the solar system. He checked the readings twice, then hit the alarm button. Control, this is Europa Station. We have unknown objects approaching from beyond Pluto. Counts indicate 50+ large vessels. This is not a drill. Back on Earth, in the command center of the Earth Defense Force, General Samantha White received the alert. She looked at the data streaming in and frowned. "Get me the president," she said to her assistant. Within an hour, the Horizon, Earth's fastest military spacecraft, was preparing to leave orbit. Captain Susan Miller walked through the ship's corridors, checking in with her crew. They had trained for first contact, but nobody really believed it would happen in their lifetime. "Lieutenant Wright, are all systems ready?" Susan asked as she entered the bridge. Alan Wright nodded. "Yes, Captain, we can launch in 10 minutes. "Good. Olivia, any new data from Europa Station?" Communications specialist Olivia Green shook her head. "Nothing new, Captain. The objects maintain their course toward our solar system." Chief Science Officer Paul Harris looked up from his station. "Captain, preliminary scans suggest these are artificial structures, too regular to be natural." Susan took her seat in the command chair. "Then we're about to make history. Let's hope it's the good kind." The Horizon left Earth orbit with a flash of blue light as its engines pushed it toward the edge of the solar system. The journey would take days, even at their fastest speed. On the third day, they reached the observation point beyond Neptune's orbit. Paul Harris called Susan to the science station. "Captain, I'm picking up energy readings unlike anything in our database. These ships, they're massive." Susan looked at the screen. The vessels were dark, with strange angles that hurt her eyes when she tried to focus on them. "Olivia, send the first contact message on all frequencies." Olivia transmitted the carefully crafted greeting that scientists had prepared decades. They waited. Hours passed with no response. "Try again," Susan ordered. "Add visual data this time." Another day passed. The alien fleet moved steadily closer. Susan contacted Earth. "General White, they're not responding to any communication attempts. What are your orders?" The general's face looked grim on the screen. "Hold position. Continue attempts to communicate. We're deploying the rest of the fleet to defensive positions." On the 6th day, as the alien vessels crossed Pluto's orbit, the screens on the horizon flickered. A face appeared. At least they thought it was a face. It had too many eyes and a mouth that moved sideways rather than up and down. "We are the Zalvari Dominion," the creature said in perfect English. "Your transmissions have been received and analyzed. Your language is simple, your technology is primitive. Your species is young." Susan stood straighter. "We welcome peaceful contact with the Zalvari. We invite you to—" The alien cut her off. "We do not come in peace. We come to claim. Your world is now part of the Dominion. Prepare your leaders to surrender." The screen went dark. Susan looked at her shocked crew. "Send everything to Earth. Now," she ordered. She turned to Alan. "Set course back to Earth. Maximum speed." As the Horizon raced homeward, the alien fleet continued its advance, ignoring all further attempts at communication. On Earth, the news spread quickly. Humanity faced its greatest threat. In the White House, President William Jones met with his advisors. "They think we'll just give up without a fight," he said. "They're about to learn something about humans. We don't surrender easily." Across Earth, military forces moved into position. Scientists worked around the clock on defensive systems. The warning was sent to the approaching Zalvari fleet. Retreat or face the consequences. The Zalvari commander's only response was laughter. The United Earth Government Emergency Council gathered in the underground bunker beneath Geneva. 24 men and women sat around a large table, their faces lit by the glow of data screens. The room was silent as they watched the recording from the horizon. "Your world is now part of the Dominion. Prepare your leaders to surrender. President. William Jones turned off the screen. That's their message. Now we need to decide our response. Admiral George Davis, a tall man with gray hair and stern eyes, stood up. Mr. President, the Earth Defense Fleet is at battle stations. Mars Colony has activated their defense grid. Europa and Luna bases are on full alert. But I must be honest, we are outmatched. Their technology appears to be at least a century ahead of ours. Defense Minister Linda Carter, a woman known for her sharp mind, shook her head. Numbers and technology aren't everything, Admiral. What about Project Prometheus? A murmur went through the room. Project Prometheus was the military's best-kept secret. It's not fully tested, Admiral Davis replied. Dr. Wilson says they need more time. John Martinez from the Diplomatic Corps raised his hand. Have we tried all diplomatic options? Perhaps we can negotiate terms that... They're not here to negotiate, President Jones cut in. They've conquered 17 other star systems. They don't want partners. They want slaves. The council debated for hours. Some argued for immediate surrender to save lives. Others pushed for full military resistance. As the argument heated up, a quiet voice spoke from the back of the room. We have one advantage they don't know about. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Benjamin Scott, head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division. The Zalvari think we're primitive because we've hidden our true capabilities, Dr. Scott continued. For the past 20 years, we've kept our most advanced technology off all broadcasts and transmissions, knowing this day might come. He walked to the main screen and displayed a series of images. We have 3 orbital platforms ready to deploy Dr. Wilson's quantum disruptors. We have stealth ships with gravity weapons. We have the nuclear mine network throughout the outer system. Admiral Davis nodded slowly. They'll still outnumber us 5-1. But they'll underestimate us, President Jones said, understanding. They think we're defenseless. The council voted. The decision was made. Earth would fight. President Jones recorded the message himself. His face was calm but determined as he looked into the camera. To the commander of the Zalvari Dominion Fleet. We have received your demand for surrender. Humanity rejects your terms. We will defend our home. This is your only warning. Retreat from our solar system immediately or face the consequences of your aggression. You have 24 Earth hours to begin withdrawal. The message was sent on all frequencies. Captain Susan Miller, now back in Earth orbit aboard the Horizon, watched her screens as the alien fleet continued its steady approach. They're not changing course, Olivia reported. Susan wasn't surprised. They think it's an empty threat. On the Zalvari command ship, Supreme War Leader Kraxathul watched the human message with his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of amusement in his species. His gray skin glistened under the ship's lights as he turned to his second-in-command. These humans are either brave or foolish, he said. 17 worlds have fallen before us. None have survived resistance. Should we respond to their warning? Asked his subordinate. Kraxathul made a sideways movement with his mouth, the Zalvari equivalent of a smile. Yes. Show them what happens. To those who defy the Dominion. He recorded a brief message showing the destruction of a previous world that had resisted. The recording ended with Kraxathul speaking directly to the camera. This is the fate of defiance. Prepare for the same. Our fleet will not stop. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your world will be ours in 7 rotations. Back on Earth, the Council watched the Zalvari response. They're not retreating, Admiral Davis said. Quite the opposite. President Jones looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. Then we show them what humanity is truly capable of. Send the authorization to Dr. Wilson. Activate Project Prometheus, and may God help us all. Across the solar system, hidden installations powered up. Humanity prepared for war. Dr. Catherine Wilson hadn't slept in 48 hours. Her lab beneath the lunar surface hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked on the final adjustments to Project Prometheus. She brushed her blonde hair away from her face and studied the holographic display of 3 satellite platforms. Power output is still fluctuating on Platform 2, she said to her assistant, Carl Peters. Fix that before we deploy. Yes, Doctor, Carl replied, his fingers moving quickly over his tablet. A chime sounded and President Jones appeared on the main screen. "Dr. Wilson, what's your status?" Catherine straightened her lab coat. "We're at 93% readiness. Mr. President, the quantum disruptors are functional, but we haven't tested them at full power against actual targets. You don't have time for more tests," President Jones said. "The Zalvari fleet has destroyed our outpost on Pluto. They'll reach Mars in 16 hours. Catherine nodded. "We'll be ready, but you should know, there's a 17% chance. The platforms will overload when activated. And if they do? Best case? They simply fail. Worst case? The quantum reaction could destroy everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius." The president was silent for a moment. "Those are odds we have to take. Proceed with deployment." As the call ended, Catherine turned to her team. "You heard him. Let's move the platforms into position." 3 unmarked transport ships left the lunar base, each carrying one of the satellite platforms. They moved quietly toward Mars, using Earth's stealth technology to avoid detection. Meanwhile, the Zalvari fleet approached the red planet. On the command ship, Supreme War Leader Kraxthul watched the small human colony with disdain. "Scan for defenses," he ordered. His weapons officer worked the controls. "Minimal defenses detected. A small energy shield covers the main colony. 12 small fighter craft are approaching from behind the planet's moon, Phobos." Kraxthul made the sideways smile again. "Only 12 ships to defend an entire planet? These humans are even weaker than we thought. Should we destroy them, Supreme War Leader?" "Of course, show no mercy." The massive Zalvari warships moved forward. On the lead human fighter, Lieutenant Commander Frank Thompson watched his radar screen as the alien armada approached. "Remember the plan," he said to his squadron. "We're not here to win, we're here to distract." "That's good," replied his wingman, Pilot Maria Chen, "because I don't think we could win against that many ships." Frank's face was grim. "Just keep them focused on us for 15 minutes. That's all Dr. Wilson needs." The 12 Earth fighters flew directly toward the alien fleet. To the Zalvari, it looked like a suicidal attack. "Look at these foolish creatures," Kraxthul laughed. "They send their tiny ships against our armada." His crew joined in his laughter. None of them noticed the 3 small objects moving into orbit on the far side of Mars. In her lunar command center, Dr. Wilson watched the positions of all ships through a secure feed. "Thompson's squadron has their attention," she said. "Deploying platforms now." The 3 satellite platforms unfolded in Mars orbit, their dish-shaped receivers pointing toward the sun. Solar energy poured into their collectors, converted into quantum energy by Dr. Wilson's revolutionary technology. "Power levels rising," Carl reported. 80%, 90%. On the Zalvari command ship, an alarm suddenly sounded. "Supreme War Leader," the science officer called out. "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from Mars orbit." Kraxthul turned from watching the human fighters. "What kind of energy?" "Unknown. Type. It's not in our database." For the first time, a flicker of concern crossed the alien commander's face. "Show me." Before the science officer could respond, the quantum disruptors activated. A wave of energy spread outward from the 3 platforms, invisible to the eye but devastating to the Zalvari shields. "Shields failing," shouted the Zalvari defense officer. "All ships reporting the same." Kraxthul's 4 eyes widened in shock. "Impossible! How could primitive humans—" He was cut off as Lieutenant Commander Thompson's squadron opened fire. Their missiles, previously harmless against Zalvari shields, now struck with full force against the exposed hulls. 3 alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. From her lunar base, Dr. Wilson allowed herself a small smile. "Platform. Status?" "All 3 functioning at full capacity," Carl replied. "The quantum field is stable." Catherine opened a channel to Earth. "Mr. President, Project Prometheus is operational. Phase 1 is complete." Across the solar system, humanity had thrown its first punch, and the Zalvari had felt it. Supreme War Leader Kraxthul slammed his fist against the command console. 3 of his ships were destroyed and the shields on all others were down. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were primitive, weak. How had they developed quantum technology? "Status report," he demanded. His second-in-command stepped forward. "Shields are regenerating slowly. We've lost contact with the destroyed vessels. The human fighters are retreating." "Let them run," Craxthul snarled. "Find those energy platforms and destroy them." Zalvari scanners swept Mars orbit, but the platforms had already moved using small thrusters to change position. Dr. Wilson had designed them to be nearly invisible when not active. "We can't locate them," the science officer admitted. Craxthul's skin darkened with anger. "Then we continue to Earth. We still have 44 ships. We will crush their homeworld and find the source of this technology." The Zalvari fleet regrouped and moved deeper into the solar system. On Earth in the Geneva Command Center, Admiral Davis watched their approach. "They're still coming," he said to the president. "Slower now, more cautious, but still coming." "President," Jones nodded. As expected, Dr. Wilson's platforms were just the first surprise. "Captain Evans, are you in position?" A voice came through the comm system. "Yes, sir. Nightshade and 4 sister ships are in position behind Jupiter's moon Europa. The Zalvari don't know we're here." Captain Lisa Evans was one of Earth's best ship commanders. Her vessel, the Nightshade, was the newest stealth ship in the fleet, with experimental gravity weapons installed just 2 months ago. She and 4 other stealth ships had been hiding in Jupiter's shadow for days, waiting. "Dr. Wilson's quantum field weakened their shields," Admiral Davis said. "Now we test the gravity weapons." Lisa studied her tactical display. Her dark eyes narrowed as she checked the positions of her ships. Unlike the larger vessels in Earth's fleet, stealth ships were small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect. She had named them after predators: Nightshade, Wolf, Falcon, Viper, and Cobra. "All ships report ready," said her tactical officer, Steve Garcia. Lisa took a deep breath. "The moment they pass Jupiter's orbit, we strike. Target their engines first." The Zalvari fleet approached Jupiter slowly. Their sensors were on highest alert after the Mars surprise, but they detected nothing unusual. Supreme War Leader Craxthul had ordered his ships to maintain distance from each other as a precaution. "No signs of human activity near Jupiter," his scout reported. "Good," Craxthul said. "Perhaps their weapon at Mars was their only defense." As the last Zalvari ship crossed Jupiter's orbit, Lisa gave the order. "All ships, activate gravity weapons. Fire." 5 invisible distortions shot from the hidden Earth ships. The gravity weapons created localized fields of intense gravitational force, crushing anything caught inside them. 5 Zalvari ships, their shields still weak, imploded as if squeezed by a giant hand. "Direct hits," Steve shouted. 5 enemy ships destroyed. Before the Zalvari could respond, the Earth ships fired again. 3 more alien vessels were crushed by the gravity fields. "Move positions," Lisa ordered. Her ships darted to new hiding spots among Jupiter's moons. On his command ship, Craxthul watched in horror as his fleet was attacked by an enemy he couldn't see. "What is happening?" he screamed. "Where are they firing from?" "Unknown, Supreme War Leader," his officer replied, fear in his voice. "Our sensors detect nothing." Craxthul's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "Impossible! Find them! Fire in all directions if you must." The Zalvari ships began firing blindly, their energy weapons lighting up the space around Jupiter. But the Earth ships were already gone, moving to new attack positions. Admiral Davis watched from Earth. "Excellent work, Captain Evans. 8 more ships down." "Do we continue the attack?" Lisa asked. "No. Pull back. We've made our point. Let them come to us now, knowing what awaits them." The 5 Earth ships slipped away, their stealth systems hiding their retreat. The Zalvari fleet, now reduced to 36 ships, regrouped once more. But this time there was no laughter on the command bridge. "They are not primitive," Craxthul said quietly. "They have technology we do not understand." For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. But it was too late to retreat. His pride would not allow it. "We continue to Earth," he ordered. But with caution, very great caution. Earth prepared for the approaching Zalvari fleet. Cities across the planet activated underground shelters. Millions of people moved below ground, carrying only what they could in small bags. In New York, London, Tokyo, and 100 other cities, the streets grew empty as defense systems rose from hidden bunkers. On the moon, Dr. Catherine Wilson watched the Zalvari fleet approach. Her quantum platforms had worked better than expected. Now it was time for the next phase of Earth's defense. The orbital defense grid is online, Carl reported. All 24 satellites are in position. Catherine nodded. They think they've seen our best weapons. They have no idea what's coming. In Geneva, President Jones met with his war council. The room was tense as they watched the tactical display showing the 36 remaining Zalvari ships approaching Earth orbit. They'll be in range of our orbital defenses in 30 minutes, Admiral Davis said, but I'm concerned. Even with their losses, they still outnumber our visible fleet 3-1. President Jones smiled slightly. The key word is visible, Admiral. Colonel Scott, are your ground teams ready? Colonel Daniel Scott stood tall, in his Earth Defense Force uniform. Yes, sir. If any of them land, we'll be waiting. In Earth orbit, the defense satellites waited silently. They appeared to be normal communication relays, but inside each one was a powerful laser weapon. Captain Susan Miller's Horizon and 15 other Earth ships formed a defensive line between the approaching aliens and the planet. They're scanning us, Olivia reported from her communication station. They can see our 16 ships. Susan nodded. Good. Let them think that's all we have. On the Zalvari command ship, Supreme War Leader Craxthul studied the human defense. The Earth ships were much smaller than his vessels. Their weapons should be no match for Zalvari technology, even with damaged shields. 16 ships against 36, he said. They cannot win. His second-in-command was not so confident. Supreme War Leader, these humans have surprised us twice already. Craxthul's skin darkened again. Are you suggesting we retreat, after losing 13 ships to these primitives? No, Supreme War Leader, but perhaps we should use more caution. No more caution. Full attack, Craxthul ordered. Destroy their small fleet, then bombard their cities until they surrender. The Zalvari fleet moved forward. On Earth, President Jones gave the order. Activate the orbital defense grid. The 24 satellites suddenly came to life. Panels opened on their sides, revealing advanced laser weapons. They fired as one, 24 beams of intense energy striking the Zalvari ships. Direct hits on 6 enemy vessels, reported the defense grid controller. The Zalvari were taken by surprise again. Their ships tried to return fire, but the small satellites were difficult targets, moving quickly in their orbits. Captain Susan Miller watched from the horizon. Now it's our turn. All Earth ships attack pattern Delta. The 16 Earth vessels split into 4 groups, attacking from different angles. Their weapons were not as powerful as the orbital lasers, but they targeted the spots where the Zalvari shields were weakest. On his command ship, Craxthul was furious. How many weapons do these humans have? Return fire. Destroy them all. The space around Earth lit up with energy beams and explosions. 3 Earth ships were hit, but 5 more Zalvari vessels were destroyed. We need to land ground forces, Craxthul decided. Prepare landing craft. 10 Zalvari ships broke from the main fleet, diving toward Earth's atmosphere. Defense satellites fired at them, destroying 2, but 8 continued their descent. They're heading for major cities, Admiral Davis reported. New York, Beijing, Cairo, Sydney, Rio, London, Moscow, and Tokyo. President Jones turned to Colonel Scott. This is what we expected. Your teams are in position? Colonel Scott nodded. Yes, sir. Urban combat teams are ready in all target cities. The Zalvari landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red with heat. On the ground, Colonel Scott's forces waited, armed with weapons specifically designed for the coming fight. Let them land, President Jones said. Then show them how humans fight for their home. In space, the battle continued as Susan Miller's fleet engaged the remaining Zalvari ships. On the moon, Dr. Wilson prepared to activate her remaining secret weapons. And on Earth, Humanity prepared for the ground war that was about to begin. Zalvari thought they were bringing the fight to the humans. They didn't realize they were falling into a trap. The Zalvari landing craft touched down in 8 major cities across Earth. In New York, the alien ship landed in Central Park, crushing trees and sending birds flying in panic. 6-legged soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming under Earth's sun. They carried energy weapons and moved with frightening speed. Colonel Daniel Scott watched from his command post 2 blocks away. His team of 50 soldiers waited in buildings surrounding the park. They wore the newest combat suits designed to absorb energy weapon fire. "Remember your training," Daniel said into his comm unit. "Let them advance to the marked positions before engaging." Similar scenes played out in Beijing, Cairo, Sydney, Rio, London, Moscow, and Tokyo. In each city, Zalvari forces landed and began to move toward government buildings. They expected little resistance from the supposedly primitive humans. They were wrong. In New York, the aliens moved deeper into the city. The streets were empty, no humans in sight. The Zalvari commander felt uneasy. "Where are all the humans?" he asked his second. "Perhaps hiding." "Cowering in fear," the second replied. They reached the first ambush point. Daniel gave the signal. 50 high-powered rifles fired at once. The special bullets pierced the Zalvari armor, designed based on scans of the alien materials. 20 invaders fell in the first volley. "Move to position 2, Daniel ordered. His troops disappeared into the buildings before the Zalvari could return effective fire. In space, the battle continued. Captain Susan Miller's Horizon took heavy damage but destroyed 2 more Zalvari ships. The orbital defense grid kept firing, taking down 3 more enemy vessels. On the Zalvari command ship, Supreme War Leader Craxthul watched in growing rage as his fleet was slowly reduced. 20 of our ships destroyed. How is this possible?" he shouted. His second-in-command looked worried. "The landing forces report heavy resistance in all cities. These humans fight with unexpected skill." Craxthul slammed all 4 of his fists onto the console. "Enough. It is time for our final weapon. Prepare the planet killer." Back in Geneva, Admiral Davis detected a change in the Zalvari command ship. "Mr. President, energy readings from the enemy flagship are spiking. They're charging some kind of massive weapon." President Jones nodded grimly. "They're desperate. This is what we've been waiting for. Initiate Operation Thunderclap." Admiral Davis picked up a secure comm unit. "All units, authorization code Alpha 7 Delta 9, execute Operation Thunderclap." In the darkness of space, hundreds of small objects suddenly activated. For over a decade, Earth had been secretly placing nuclear mines throughout the solar system. They were stealthed, undetectable, until activated. Now they all came online at once, positioned near the remaining Zalvari ships. At the lunar base, Dr. Wilson watched her screen. Nuclear mines activated. Detonation in 10 seconds. In New York, Daniel led his forces in a fighting retreat, drawing the Zalvari deeper into the prepared killing zones. Similar battles raged in cities across the planet. Humanity fought with everything they had, knowing what was coming next. On the command ship, Craxthul's weapons officer suddenly looked up, in alarm. "Supreme War Leader, multiple energy signatures appearing all around our fleet." "What? Where did they?" The officer never finished his sentence. The nuclear mines detonated simultaneously. Blinding light filled space around Earth as 15 more Zalvari ships were destroyed instantly. The Zalvari command ship survived, protected by its stronger shields, but it was heavily damaged. Fires burned on multiple decks. Craxthul pulled himself from the floor, purple blood flowing from a wound on his head. "Status," he demanded. His second-in-command checked the damaged systems. "Fleet destroyed. Only 5 ships remain, including our own. All heavily damaged. Planet killer weapon offline." For the first time, Craxthul felt real fear. These humans had planned everything, had led his mighty fleet into a trap. In Geneva, President Jones received the news. Operation Thunderclap successful. Enemy fleet reduced to 5 vessels. He looked at his war council. "Now for the final phase. Major Brown, is your team ready?" A woman in a Special Forces uniform nodded. Yes, sir. Boarding party is standing. Fast, then launch immediately. Take the Zalvari flagship. I want their commander alive. On a small stealth vessel, Major Elizabeth Brown checked her team's equipment one last time. 20 of Earth's best soldiers prepared to board the alien command ship. Remember, she said, we take the four-eyed commander alive. President's orders. The hunt for Kraxthul had begun. Major Elizabeth Brown's stealth vessel approached the damaged Zalvari command ship. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of their small craft. Its hull was scorched from the nuclear explosions, with several breaches visible. Target acquired, said her pilot Sam Adams. Approaching docking point Alpha, Elizabeth checked her weapon one last time. It fired darts filled with a sedative designed to work on Zalvari biology, based on samples collected from the first encounters. Team 1 will secure the bridge, she told her soldiers. Team 2 will locate and disable their main computer. Remember, we need their command codes. The stealth ship attached to the Zalvari vessel near what scans suggested was an access port. Engineer Bill Johnson used a laser cutter to create an entry point. The boarding party slipped inside the alien ship. Inside, the Zalvari were in chaos. Emergency lights flashed and smoke filled many corridors. The human team moved quickly, using their suits' built-in oxygen and the maps created from scans of the ship. Meanwhile, on Earth, the ground battles continued. In New York, Colonel Daniel Scott's forces had the aliens surrounded in Central Park. The Zalvari fought fiercely, but they were cut off from their ship and running low on ammunition. They're breaking formation, Daniel told his troops. Push them back toward the lake. The human soldiers advanced, using buildings for cover. Their special weapons continued to punch through alien armor. Similar reports came in from other cities. The Zalvari ground forces were slowly being defeated. In space, Susan Miller's Horizon led the remaining Earth fleet against the 4 other damaged Zalvari ships. The orbital defense grid continued firing, taking down another alien vessel. On the Zalvari command ship, Supreme War Leader Kraxthul was trying to restore order. Get the engines working, we must retreat. His officers worked frantically at their stations. The proud war leader who had conquered 17 worlds was now desperate to escape with his life. Supreme War Leader, one officer called out. Internal. Sensors detect intruders. Kraxthul spun around. Impossible. How could humans board our ship? In another part of the ship, Elizabeth's team had reached the main computer room. The Zalvari technicians inside were quickly subdued. Ryan, you're up, Elizabeth said. Tech specialist Ryan Cooper pulled out a device and connected it to the alien computer. Ryan was a genius who had helped create the virus that would disable the Zalvari neural network. I need 5 minutes. He said, his fingers flying over his tablet. You have 2, Elizabeth replied. Team 1, report. We're approaching the bridge, came the response from her second-in-command. Heavy resistance. Back on the bridge, Kraxthul ordered his guards to the doors. No humans must enter. Defend your Supreme War Leader. In the computer room, Ryan worked furiously. Almost there. Their system architecture is complex, but I found a weakness. His device uploaded the virus into the Zalvari computer. It was designed to attack the neural network that connected all Zalvari ships and communications. Upload complete, Ryan announced. Virus deploying. Throughout the ship, systems began to fail. Lights flickered. Doors opened and closed randomly. The same happened on the remaining Zalvari vessels. Team 1 reached the bridge doors. They placed breaching charges and took cover. Charges set. Breaching in 3, 2, 1. The doors blew inward. Smoke filled the bridge as the human soldiers rushed in, firing their stun weapons. The Zalvari guards fell one by one. Kraxthul pulled out his own weapon, firing wildly. A dart struck his arm. Then another hit his chest. The Supreme War Leader staggered, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion as the sedative took effect. This... impossible, he mumbled, before collapsing. To the deck, Elizabeth's voice came through the comm. Status report? Bridge secured. Kraxthul captured. No casualties. Ryan's virus continued to spread, infecting the neural network of all Zalvari systems. On the remaining ships, aliens found themselves unable to communicate or coordinate. Earth, forces quickly moved to capture the disabled vessels. In Geneva, President Jones received the news. Major Brown reports mission successful. Zalvari commander captured, their neural network is down. Admiral Davis nodded in satisfaction. The remaining ground forces are surrendering in all cities. Without guidance from their command ship, they're lost. President Jones looked at the tactical display. The space battle was over. Earth had won. Prepare for the final phase, he said. It's time to send a message to the Zalvari homeworld. 1 week after the battle, Supreme War Leader Kraxthul stood before the United Earth government in Geneva. His hands were bound and he was guarded by soldiers. The once proud commander of the Zalvari Dominion looked smaller now, his gray skin pale and his 4 eyes downcast. President Jones looked at the alien who had threatened to destroy their world. You were warned to retreat. You chose to ignore that warning. Now your fleet is destroyed, your soldiers captured. Kraxthul looked up. Finish it then, kill me and be done. That's not our way, President Jones replied. We're not conquerors like the Zalvari. The room was silent as a large screen lowered from the ceiling. It showed a single Zalvari ship, the only one left intact enough to fly. That vessel has been repaired, Admiral Davis explained. We're sending it back to your homeworld. Kraxthul's eyes widened in surprise. You're letting them know you won? You wish to start a larger war? President Jones shook his head. No. We're sending them a message, and you will deliver it. At a military base outside Geneva, the captured alien soldiers were loaded onto the ship. Major Elizabeth Brown supervised the operation while Dr. Catherine Wilson installed a special device on the vessel. This will prevent them from analyzing our technology, Catherine explained to Admiral Davis. But it will allow the ship to reach the Zalvari homeworld. Inside the ship, Ryan Cooper was making final adjustments to the navigation system. It's programmed to take a direct route to their home planet. They can't change course. The last alien to board was Kraxthul himself. Before he entered the ship, Admiral Davis handed him a small data device. This contains recordings of the entire battle, Davis said. Show your leaders what happened when you attacked Earth. Make sure they understand what awaits any force that threatens us again. Kraxthul took the device. You are making a mistake. The Dominion will send a larger fleet, hundreds of ships. President Jones stepped forward. Tell them what happened here. Tell them humanity was given a choice between submission and defiance, and we chose defiance. Tell them we could pursue your empire now, but instead, we're sending you with a warning, never return. The ship's door closed. Minutes later, it lifted off, accelerating into space. Earth's defense grid tracked it until it left the solar system. In the months that followed, humanity rebuilt what had been damaged in the brief war. The Zalvari technology recovered from the captured ships accelerated human science by decades. New ships were built, more advanced than anything before. The quantum disruptors were improved, and the gravity weapons became standard on all military vessels. 5 years later, Earth had established colonies on 12 new worlds beyond the solar system. The first faster-than-light ship, the Defiance, was ready for its maiden voyage. Captain Susan Miller had been chosen to command it. She stood on the bridge, looking at her crew. Lieutenant Alan Wright was now her second-in-command. Olivia Green had been promoted to Chief Communications Officer, and Paul Harris led the science team. All systems ready, Captain, Alan reported. Susan nodded. Begin final countdown. As the Defiance prepared to make history again, deep space monitoring stations throughout human space broadcast a continuous message in all known frequencies. We are humanity. We come in peace, but we are prepared for war. Approach with caution and respect. In a distant part of the galaxy, on the Zalvari homeworld, the ruling council watched with concern as reports came in of new human colonies appearing on the edges of their territory. Since Kraxthul's return, no Zalvari ship had ventured near Earth space. Should we send scouts to monitor their expansion? Asked one council member. The head of the council, who had watched the battle recordings many times, shook his head. No, we leave them alone. They warned us once. They will not warn us again. The lesson had been learned. The galaxy now knew about the species from the small blue planet, the species that, when threatened, had destroyed a fleet that had conquered 17 worlds, the species that had sent back its enemies with a warning rather than pursuing total victory. Humanity had earned the respect of the stars.